Hi guys, it's your girl Money and welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe. Before we get into today's video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video and share the video if you like what you see. Thank you. So let's get into today's video. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about books. The last time I did a book video, I really enjoyed it. Books are one of my favorite thing right now, except plants. So I've just been like feeding into that and reading a lot more. So I have a lot of books to share. If you haven't seen my last video where I talked about books, it should be right over here if you want to check that one out too. And then now I've added some more to my repertoire. So without any further ado, let's get into some of my faves that I've been enjoying during self-isolation. So the first book that I've been reading is More Than Enough, Claiming Space for Who You Are No Matter What They Say by ELAINE WELERORTH. Just a little backstory about ELAINE WELERORTH. She is the second female black editor-in-chief in Condé Nast history, and she's the first black editor for Teen Vogue. So she's one of the first and a token, and she speaks about how it is to maneuver that kind of space being the first, and also the kind of responsibility that is placed upon her being that she's the first. And she goes through, it's a memoir, she goes through her life, but what I enjoy about the book too is that while she goes through her life, she kind of gives you tips on, you know, whether on the mistakes that she has made and also on advice that she has gotten from other people. A lot of tips that she says in the book I have held with me to this day. One of my favorite things that she said in the book is that when the world tells you to shrink, expand. That's actually one of my affirmations that I say to myself every day, is like, when the world tells you to shrink, expand. So I would say this book is for anybody that wants to learn how to take up more space for themselves, learn or read about somebody that has done that and bypass their insecurities. I love those kind of books, and she speaks from a very vulnerable place, and you know, I enjoy people when they're like vulnerable like that. If you have read Michelle Obama's Becoming and enjoyed it, this book is also really good and less political. She just gives you insight on advocacy, activism, and her whole life, and show you how your voice matters no matter what everybody else says. The second book that I would suggest I've read and loved is by my girl, the one, Amanda Seales, Small Doses, Potent Truths for Everyday Use. I love Amanda Seales. Anyone that knows me knows I love Amanda Seales. I love everything about her. She is a truth teller. She inspires me to tell the truth all the time, and I love everything about her journey and who she is. This book is no different. She gives advice about everything about life, whether it is about being a black woman, self-love, being a multi-hyphenate, being a perfectionist, like all sorts of things she really goes in depth into. And if you know Amanda Seales or followed her path before, this book is no different. She has a podcast called Small Doses, and it's a lot like the podcast too. And she goes into literally every topic you can think of is in here. She talks about dating, she talks about online dating, she talks about every single thing, she talks about like everything that you would need to know in your 20-somethings. It's definitely a book that you read and come back to. Like you know, just read it and left it. You like read it and come back and say, well, Amanda, this at a time here. Like, she talks about everything. She talks about being conscious versus being a whole tap. Like, she talks about every single thing in this book. So I recommend it always because she's just that awesome. She's that girl. And yeah. Third book that I've read and loved and like just been raving about and crossing, like underlining everything in the book because it's so good, is Good Feminism, Notes from the Women That the Movement Forgot, by Mikki Kendall. First time ever reading a book by Mikki Kendall, and listen, ticks all the boxes for me. I'm one of those people that I'm very passionate about people, untold stories, like stories about people that aren't really like popular in the media or in dialogue, and this is exactly what she speaks about in her book. She speaks about the fact that feminism has been lauded as this thing to encompass all women, but when you really look on the structure and the tenets of feminism, feminism and when it is coming into play, it does really advocate for all women. And she goes into detail about motherhood and black motherhood, and she speaks about young black girls and how they are left out of the conversation. She speaks about how women are written up, black women are written about in the media. She goes into hunger, she goes into unemployment, she goes into all of that stuff, and I enjoy how she speaks about it because there are so many things in the feminism movement that it doesn't cover because it does not relate to whiteness, like white people, and she seeks to challenge that and advocate for those people. Because I think oftentimes people think, oh, you're from the hood, is that so bad? Rather than thinking that even just the concept of there being a hood and those kind of strains on society, on people, is a problem within our society in itself and not the people, but the society. So she talks about that. I love the book. Did you hear me go on my soapbox a while ago about the book? Because it's really, really good. There's so many things across in this book because she is so good. I want to tell you this line that I love. She said right here where she was talking about how to write about black women, she said, we embrace the logic of putting whiteness on a pedestal and then forgot that traditional behaviors it demanded had nothing to do with us and everything to do with controlling us. And I love that because that's true. So really good book, check it out. Awesome book, you won't forget it. Like if you're, as you can see from the books that I read, I'm really into anything to do with blackness and learning a little bit more about what it is that we need to propel as a people and learn more about black liberation and things that we need as black people. So most of the books that I read are about that and about our stories. Most of the authors I read are black authors. Was that intentional? Not really, but to think over time, those are the books that I'm drawn to, more black authors. So yeah, you're gonna see a theme in that. I love social justice, advocacy, activism, and those are the books that I read. And then sometimes I switch into something like more lighter, but yeah. Next book. So the next book is The Skin We're In, A Year of Black Resistance and Power by Desmond Cole. So this book, Desmond Cole is a black Canadian journalist. He used to write for the Toronto Star. He's very renowned in Canada for his writings, and he pretty much brings us through a year in Canada about different instances throughout Canada's media and journalism in which they have failed black people, and also brings us through policing in Canada, history of racism in Canada, and critiques polite racism, the polite racism that is here. Because I think oftentimes people think that Canada doesn't really have racism because of how it is masked, but he pretty much brings to the layer the many ways in which Canada is extremely similar to their neighbors. But I love it. He is a truth teller. If you've ever read, he is that. Yeah, he's not cookie cuttering it. He's telling you straight up, and he gives you a lot of history. So if you want to know more about race and race as it relates to Canada and things and movements that are being done and pushing forth black liberation in Canada, this book can give you an insight on it. He speaks about black communities in Canada that I didn't know about. So lots to see here. He also critiques Canada's multiculturalism, and yeah, I love it. I'm going to read a line from this book that I really loved that he said. The Star wanted my profile, but not my voice. My diversity, but not my blackness. And then he went on to say later down, the false promise of objectivity in journalism reinforces white supremacy. And I love that because, first of all, I wanted to study journalism, or is studying some remnants of that. And it's just good to see how he challenged that idea that you can't speak about things that relate to you because you're going to be subjective in some way. So, good book. Read it. You're going to love it. Awesome book. Yeah, if you want to know more about Canada and racism, here you go, girl. So the next book is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Oh my god. So backstory about me and Toni Morrison. I didn't know about Toni Morrison until sadly when she passed away and everyone was talking about her. And because we're in Jamaica, in my high school, we didn't learn about Toni Morrison, which they should. She is an excellent black novelist, and I really wanted to check her out because every black woman that I've gotten to speak to or been inspired by speaks so highly of Toni Morrison's writing. So I decided to get the Bluest Eye. My best friend got me this book actually for Christmas, and I sunk right into it. This book actually made me cry. This book brought me to tears because it's so well written, and it captures the vulnerability of the little girl so well. Trigger warning for anybody that's actually gonna purchase this book. There is some amount of sexual violence in this book. So yeah, that is apparent in the book. The summary of the story is that it's about pretty much talking about how the world is so pervasive with Eurocentric standards of beauty, and how this can inevitably affect how young black girls or people of color see themselves in comparison to those images that they constantly see. I love the eyes through which she told them, and it's just an awesome book. Check it out if you love novels and you want something to sink your teeth into. It's not a hard read, it's pretty small. You won't be disappointed. Next book is Relationship Goals by Pastor Mike Todd. How to win at dating, marriage, and sex. I love Pastor Mike. Pastor Mike is the pastor that literally brought me back to Christ on no tea, no shade. Yeah, he is instrumental in my faith journey, and it was a no-brainer to get the book. He goes into detail about any aspect of relationship that you may be in right now, any season. He talks about dating, marriage, sex, singleness, intentional dating, like all of that kind of stuff. Some things that maybe your church wouldn't talk about, Pastor Mike is going to talk about it. That's what I loved about him. So yeah, excellent book. He cracks jokes. If you know Pastor Mike, you should check him out. Transformation Church. He is one of those pastors that he's very relatable, and the book is no different. He breaks it down into layman's terms, and he cracks a lot of jokes in here. So it's an easy read, and I always think that if you're going to live your life, it's good to have some scripture or word to put on it. If you subscribe to Christianity, or if you subscribe to any kind of faith, it's good to have word to back up what you're living, so you're not just living willy-nilly. So it's good to have this premise on how to live your life intentionally and date intentionally with Christ and faith centered. So awesome book, love it. Love Pastor Mike. He's a good pastor. Check him out and check out the book. Buy the book. Next book, White Fragility. Why is it so hard for white people to talk about racism? By Robin DiAngelo. Okay, so this book here, I bought this book and I didn't know what to expect from the book, because I was at first like, okay, what is this book about? She's a white lady that wrote the book. This book is really good because it goes deeper into white fragility. If you don't know what white fragility is, it's the concept of how whenever you try to bring forth something to white people to challenge them in a way to think further than their current mindset, they start to become very defensive and take on behavior as though you're accusing them or calling them racist. She goes much into detail about that good and bad kind of way of looking at whiteness as a structure in society and being bad, because she thinks that people think, okay, if you're good, you're not racist, and if you're bad, you're like this KKK, white, terrible person, racist person. And she said those two dynamics are not good, because people do harmful stuff every day, like little microaggressions and all of those stuff every day that literally is harmful narratives and white saviorism that, hurt people of color and black people every day. So she goes deeper into that and just how it is hard to have a dialogue with them, because them not have much world perspectives. They are so engulfed in their whiteness that being challenged outside of that is strenuous and makes them feel like you're telling them that they are a horrible person. So it's a good book. It's a good book for white people to read. It's a good book for black people to read so them can stop. So because when I read this book, what this book did to me was almost like, let me just not even waste my time to try to educate white people, even though it's not our job to do that anyways. But sometimes, you know, when you feel like your coworker does something that's problematic, or your friend might do something that's problematic, and you want to state it to them. And then I think this book kind of makes it so that this person has to really do the work for themselves into undoing this thing for themselves. It's not really for us to do. So that's it, guys. That's all the books that I've been reading during this self-isolation and just this time where I'm just loving to read books right now. My head just always, you know, on books. So yeah, let me know what you guys are reading, if you guys are reading, and if you've read any of these books. I'm always down to talk about them. And yeah, let me know how they are and if you're going to get any of these books. As always, stay well and protect yourself, and see you in the next video.